We are not in Mexico anymore.
Hey guys, I'm Ann.
I'm Alex.
And for the last 3 years and 3 months, we have been traveling throughout Mexico and really enjoying our time there. But all good things must come to an end. A traveler's gotta travel, and so we have returned to the US.
So we have officially left Mexico for the foreseeable future. We still have temporary residency, so we can always go back, but for now, we're in the US. And I feel like a lot of my friends and family have been asking me why I left Mexico, why I went back to the US, and it's one of those situations where I don't have a traditional answer. Alex and I both really enjoyed being in Mexico, especially San Cristobal de las Casas, and if I ever go back to Mexico, I do feel like San Cris would be the place I would want to go back to. Although there's still so many parts of Mexico I haven't explored. But at the end of the day, my lifestyle is very nomadic, transitory. I don't know what word best describes it, but ever since I was little, I love just picking up and starting over someplace new. I was born into a military family. I loved when my dad would come home and say, all right, guys, I think we're leaving. I think we're moving again. I would be the one that would run into my room and start packing because I was always excited. And it wasn't that I ever really disliked the place I was living in so much as the idea of starting over in a new location has always been exciting to me. This is not the case, by the way, with my siblings who all really prefer to live in kind of the same place. Now that they're adults, they love having a place to call home and kind of building a life within a very specific community. But that desire has really never been part of my life. And so after living a little over a year and a half in Merida and a little over a year and a half in San Cristobal, I felt like I was good with Mexico. I was ready to move someplace else. And one of the odd things about my life is I'm generally not very picky about where I move to. When I was a kid and while I was in the military, I had very little say about what new location we were going to next. Really, no matter where my family moved to or where the Navy sent me, we were good. I just enjoy going someplace new and starting over.
Surprise me.
And while it might not seem that way, going back to the US is kind of like traveling to a new country. I know that's a weird thing to say, but think about it. Think of all the Mexico expats or all the expats you know in the world who, when they return back to the US, they talk about reverse culture shock.
After living abroad for over 3 years, the reverse culture shock is very real.
They talk about how it's almost like they're in a new place. Because when you leave a location for months and months, and especially for years and years, like the world is always changing, it's always turning. Sometimes it's hard to see when you're in it the entire time, but when you're able to leave and come back, you realize, yeah, nothing's really the same. Now, when deciding where I wanted to move to next, I honestly had lots of ideas playing around in my head, but Alex had a really specific place he wanted to go. Back home to the US. Now, in asking to return to the US, Alex didn't necessarily have a particular place in mind, although living next to family, whether my family or his dad's family, was definitely his preference. But the thing he really wanted to do, the reason why he wanted to go back to the US, is because he wanted to start going back to school again. He wanted to start taking classes in English where he completely understood what was going on so he can learn, but also so he can fully engage with his classmates. Alex really did enjoy going to school in Mexico. We found just an amazing school that really worked with him as much as they could, but at the end of the day, all the classes are taught in Spanish, and most of his classmates, as you can imagine, only spoke Spanish. And even though Alex finally agreed to start taking Spanish classes, you can imagine that when you first start learning Spanish, Alex wasn't able to converse with his friends nearly as much as he wanted to. He wasn't able to make the connections with people that he really wanted, and he found it pretty frustrating. But he also found it frustrating on an academic level because Alex actually really enjoys learning. He loves trying new things, which is why he's an amazing travel buddy. But he felt as if he was on the brink of learning all this information, but he just couldn't understand what the teachers were saying. Even though a lot of his teachers were bilingual, during the class, they couldn't just switch back and forth between English and Spanish. And no matter how much they tried to kind of catch him up after the class, the moment and the energy of that class really can't be repeated. So that hint, that reminder of what school was like, because Alex went to a traditional school up until the 3rd grade, right? As soon as he graduated the 3rd grade is when we started RV life and then later Mexico life. So he's been homeschooled / unschooled for the last 4 years. He kind of forgot, I think, over time, the parts of school he really loved, which is the people and the learning. Now, there are some parts of the people and the learning that he didn't necessarily enjoy his first time around, but overall, Alex has always been a great student, and again, he loves to learn. I was ready to move somewhere. Alex wanted to go to school and have connections, so the US just makes sense. And so here we are. Now he's still being homeschooled, but I just dropped Alex off to take some classes. He's taken his first class. So he is currently, hopefully, enjoying his first day, being back in a more classroom environment. And while he's testing the water to see if he's okay continuing homeschooling and just taking classes versus completely enrolling back in a traditional school, I get to play in my RV. Now, obviously, with Alex taking classes, we're not going to be able to full-time RV, which is a shame, but also, listen, we get to enjoy yet another flexible lifestyle, which I am all game for. I'm really hoping he's okay with just taking a few classes a week as opposed to fully enrolling into a traditional school, because with taking classes, it still leaves us a much more flexible schedule that we can maybe travel at least nearby in between his classes. And so the reason I picked Georgia is honestly because my family lives here. So we've officially moved in with my dad, who has room for us with a decent amount of land for Henry to run around in. And so the lifestyle we're currently having is kind of a dual lifestyle. Alex gets to enjoy taking classes and being in a much more academic environment, while I finally get to be back in the RV, which, listen, after 3 years being in storage, needs a lot of love and attention. But on the flip side, she runs. While it will cost a little bit, at the end of the day, she's doing well. And I'm pretty excited for even the short trips that we're going to be able to take in her. So yeah, things have changed for us kind of a bit, but I am loving being back in the RV, and honestly, I'm loving being back in the US. There's just so much beauty here that I'm excited to re-explore. And if you've ever lived in Georgia or one of the surrounding states, let me know the places I need to check out, because the last time we did RV life, we were in the northwestern part of the US, and we didn't get to explore too much of the southeast. It is freezing in Georgia right now though, and I'm kind of loving it. While Alex is in class, I'm not required to stay outside and wait for him, but because it's his first day, and honestly, I don't know exactly how they transition from class to class, or if he's able to leave for lunch, etc. I just thought, I have an RV, might as well hang out, get some work done while he's in class.
I can only be here for a few moments, but it's break. I have pretzels.
Did they feed you, or what are you doing for lunch?
I don't know. They had pretzels, so I had pretzels.
So next time bring food?
Yeah.
How was your first day so far?
Good. I made a friend, kind of.
That's good. And
Well,
he's like, welcome home, welcome home.
Bye.
You're leaving already?
I don't know when it stops, lunch stops, so I just thought I'd say hi real quick.
Okay.
Bye.
I love you. Have fun. I'm gonna walk to a nearby restaurant and grab something for him to eat so he's not starving. Came in this cute box.
I think I'm gonna go hang out with them because I want to make friends, and I spend a lot of days, a lot of time with you, so. 10 minutes.